Everyone in your small, tightly knit suburb believes you are the anchor. You are the high school guidance counselor, the person who sits across from terrified, broken teenagers and helps them piece their futures back together. Your entire identity is built on a single, unshakable core value. Every child can be saved if someone refuses to give up on them. You spend your days listening to the friction of troubled homes, always returning at night to the absolute stillness of your own life. Your symbol of stability is a heavy brass desk clock given to you by the first student you ever pulled back from the edge. It ticks with a rhythmic, reassuring heartbeat on your desk, a constant reminder that time, patience, and care can heal any fracture. But your routine shifts on a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Leo sits across from you. Leo is 17, quiet, and possesses the kind of hypervigilance that only develops in households ruled by unpredictable fear. His grades have plummeted, but it's the bruises on his wrists, hidden poorly beneath the sleeves of an oversized hoodie, that catch your attention. You speak to him in your practiced, grounding tone, offering him a safe space to breathe. For weeks, you build a fragile bridge of trust. You learn about his father, a powerful, volatile man with deep connections in the city's underbelly, a man who treats his son like a possession rather than a human being. You promise Leo with absolute certainty that you will protect him. You tell him that the system works, that you will personally ensure he is placed somewhere safe. Then the system fails completely. The report you file with Child Protective Services vanishes into a black hole of administrative bureaucracy and paid-off officials. 2 days later, Leo doesn't show up for school. When you drive past his house that evening, you see his father's car in the driveway, the house dark, and a sense of absolute dread anchors itself in your stomach. You realize that your clean, orderly world of counseling forms and scheduled therapy sessions is entirely useless against the raw, violent reality of Leo's life. If you leave him there, he will not survive the winter. You tell yourself that you are merely intervening where the law failed. You convince yourself that taking a child out of harm's way isn't a crime when the alternative is his destruction. The transition from savior to criminal happens in a blur of desperate desperation. You don't plan a kidnapping, you plan a rescue. You wait until his father leaves for a weekend trip, and you meet Leo behind a convenience store, your car engine idling in the dark. He is terrified, his face pale, carrying nothing but a backpack. When he gets into your passenger seat, you feel a profound surge of righteousness. You are doing what needs to be done. You drive him to a secluded, vacant cabin owned by your late grandfather, deep in the woods 3 hours north of the city. You tell him he is safe now. You leave him with food, a warm bed, and a promise that you will return in 48 hours with a permanent plan to get him out of the state. But when you return to the city, the world has twisted itself into a nightmare. The local news isn't reporting a runaway teenager or a domestic rescue. The headlines are screaming about a high-profile abduction. Leo's father isn't just a wealthy abuser. He is a man with enough leverage to weaponize the entire state police force. They aren't looking for a missing kid. They are hunting a dangerous kidnapper. Worse, you discover that Leo's father has put out a massive private bounty for his son's return, dead or alive, because Leo took something with him. Inside that simple backpack wasn't just clothes, it was an encrypted hard drive containing the financial ledgers of the city's most dangerous criminal syndicate. Leo didn't just run away, he accidentally stole the life insurance policy of the worst people in the state. Your heart hammers against your ribs as you sit at your desk, the brass clock ticking loudly, sounding less like a heartbeat now and more like a countdown. You realize the first impossible choice is staring you directly in the face. If you go to the police, confess your righteous intentions, and hand Leo over, you might save your own skin and career, but Leo will be returned to a father who will kill him for the theft.
If you keep him hidden, you become a fugitive, a true kidnapper in the eyes of the law, actively harboring a boy hunted by both the police and executioners. One option protects your pristine reputation and your safety. The other honors your vow to protect a child, but forces you to descend into a world of absolute lawlessness. You choose the boy, and in that choice, the first piece of who you used to be dies. When you return to the cabin, the atmosphere has changed. Leo looks at you not just as a savior, but with a growing, desperate dependency. You look at the encrypted drive he pulls from his bag. You don't know how to unlock it, but you know it is the only leverage keeping you both alive. The pressure escalates sharply when you receive a phone call on your personal cell phone from an unknown number. It's Leo's father. He doesn't know it's you yet, but his voice is cold, scraping against your eardrums. He tells you that he is tracking the burner phones in the area, that he knows his son is with someone local, and that anyone aiding him will face a slow, agonizing end. The panic forces a deep, dark transformation within you. The empathetic guidance counselor who used to listen to problems with an open heart vanishes. You find yourself lying effortlessly to your colleagues, fabricating a family emergency to explain your sudden absences. You learn to watch your rearview mirror for tails. You buy untraceable prepaid phones, speaking in short, clipped sentences. You start viewing every person you pass on the street as a potential threat. The world is no longer a place of people needing help. It is a chessboard of predators, and you are trying desperately not to let them take your peace. The true descent begins when a local low-level criminal, a man who recognized Leo's description from the street, tracks your car to a hardware store where you are buying supplies. He follows you halfway to the cabin before you notice him. The panic is a hot, blinding wave. If he finds the cabin, Leo is dead, and so are you. You intentionally pull off onto a deserted dirt road, leading him into the thick brush. When he blocks your car and steps out, a heavy wrench in his hand and a malicious grin on his face, you don't call the police. You don't try to reason with him. You accelerate. The impact is sickening, a loud metallic crunch, followed by the horrific thud of a human body hitting the windshield. You stop the car, your hands shaking violently on the steering wheel. You step out into the cold rain. The man is alive, but badly injured, pinning his leg beneath the bumper. He looks up at you, his eyes wide with a mixture of pain and sudden terror. He begs you to help him, to call an ambulance. This is the second level of the nightmare, the moment where your core belief is pushed to its absolute breaking point. If you call for help, the medical team will alert the police, your location will be compromised, and Leo will be caught. If you leave him here in the freezing rain, miles from the main road, he will die of hypothermia or internal bleeding. The guidance counselor, who believed every single life was worth saving, looks down at a dying man and realizes that to save one life, you must actively choose to let another end.
You look at him, your face completely blank, detached from the horror of your own actions. You get back into your car, reverse away from his shattered body, and drive away into the darkness, leaving his screams behind in the trees. You don't cry, you don't pray, you simply feel a cold, heavy armor hardening around your soul. You are no longer rescuing a boy, you are managing a body count. When you arrive at the cabin, covered in mud and splattered with the man's blood, Leo sees the transformation in your eyes. He is terrified of you now. The beautiful, trusting relationship you built in the safety of your school office is shattered. He realizes that you are no longer his counselor. You are a desperate, dangerous individual who has crossed a line from which there is no return. He backs away from you, his voice trembling. "What did you do?" he whispers. You look at him, your voice devoid of the warmth it once held. "I kept you alive," you say, the words tasting like ash. "And you are going to help me finish this." The final level of the collapse happens within 24 hours. The man you left in the woods is found, and the police trace the tire tracks directly to your vehicle registration. Your name is broadcast across the state. Your colleagues, the parents who trusted you, the teenagers who looked up to you, they all watch their screens in absolute disbelief as the anchor of their community is revealed to be a cold-blooded kidnapper and a suspected murderer. Your old life is completely, irrevocably erased. You realize you have only one move left. You use the burner phone to call Leo's father directly. You don't negotiate for money. You negotiate for a trade. The encrypted drive for your lives and a clean disappearance. The meeting is set at an abandoned logging mill at midnight. The confrontation is not an action movie climax. It is a tense, suffocating, psychological execution. You arrive with Leo, his hands bound loosely with zip ties to make it look like you are controlling him, though the terror in his eyes is entirely real. His father stands across the dilapidated floor, flanked by two armed men. The father looks at you not with anger, but with a twisted, amused respect. "The guidance counselor," he mocks, tossing a duffel bag of cash and fake identification papers onto the ground. "Look what you became for a kid who isn't even yours." You hand over the drive, but as Leo's father takes it, he smiles, a cruel, sharp expression. He signals his men. They aren't going to let either of you leave. They can't leave witnesses who know what was on that drive. In that final fraction of a second, the instinct you developed in the dark woods takes over. You don't hesitate. You pull the small, concealed pistol you bought off the street from your jacket. The room explodes in deafening sound. You don't feel like a hero. You feel like a machine. When the noise stops, the two gunmen are down, and Leo's father is clutching a chest wound, slumping against a wooden pillar, gasping for air. You stand over him, the gun heavy and warm in your hand. Leo is sobbing behind you, covering his ears, completely shattered by the violence. His father looks up to you, blood bubbling at his lips, and whispers, "You're just like me now." You look down at him, and the terrifying truth is that you don't disagree. You don't feel a sense of justice or victory. You feel completely empty. You take the bag of cash and the papers. You grab Leo's arm, pulling him up, and force him out into the cold night air as the mill begins to burn from a knocked-over kerosene heater. Months later, you sit in a tiny, nameless diner in a coastal town 3,000 miles away. You have a new name, a new face, and a completely new existence. Leo lives a few blocks away under a legal alias you procured for him. He goes to a new school, his physical bruises healed, but he never looks you in the eye when you pass each other on the street. The bond of trust you once shared is replaced by a heavy, suffocating silence built on shared trauma and mutual guilt. He is safe, free from his father, but he looks at you and sees the monster that had to be birthed to buy that freedom. You look at your hands. They no longer hold counseling files or write encouraging notes to struggling kids. You look at the cheap, battery-operated plastic clock on the diner wall, ticking away the seconds of a life you never expected to live. You succeeded in your mission. You saved the boy. You kept your promise. But as you stare out at the gray, indifferent ocean, the psychological weight settles deep into your bones. You realize the ultimate consequence of your choice. You survived the kidnapping gone wrong, you beat the system, and you destroyed the predators. But to save a child from the darkness, you had to let that very same darkness swallow you whole. You look at your reflection in the window, searching for the person who believed every life was worth saving, and you realize that person died in the woods months ago. The choice saved a life, but it cost you your soul. And as the clock continues to tick, you are left with the echoing, permanent question, was the salvation of one worth the absolute destruction of who you were?